Hi, everybody. It's May 1st, 2025. Happy May Day to everybody that celebrates May 1st as Labor Day around the world, everywhere except for us people in the United States, I believe. So it's May 1st, and this is the Backdrop Weekly Dev Meeting. The big topic for today is feature freeze that the first of the month before a minor release is usually feature freeze. I'll start off right away and just say that there's a big announcement that our feature freeze, we normally don't have land on a holiday or a weekend. So usually that would be, we would push it to tomorrow. But because of the limited number of things that are in the minor release at this point, there's only 2 completed items. So we're pushing the feature freeze to the 5th instead. So the end of the day, Monday, May 5th, is going to be our feature freeze date for the Backdrop 131 release. So we've still got a couple of days to wrap up some of these issues that are on the cusp to make it so that 131 has a couple more things in it. Hopefully, we'll see if these things come together or not. So let's do some introductions. My name is Nate Lampton. I'm Quick Sketch on the internet. I'm the technical lead and a core committer for the Backdrop project, calling in from Oakland, California. And we've got half a dozen people here today, and we'll go around the room and do some introductions. We'll start with Tim, and then we'll go to Justin.
Hi, my name is Tim, and I'm in Deerwood, Minnesota, and happy May Day. That's all.
Thanks, Tim. Justin, and then Eli.
Justin Kaiser, Kaiser JB on the internet, and I am joining from Muncie, Indiana.
Thanks, Justin. Eli, and then Jen.
Hi, my name is Eli Lissick. I'm a developer with Giant Rabbit, and I'm in San Diego, California.
Thanks, Eli. Jen, and then Laren.
Jen Lampton, joining from Oakland, California.
And
I'm Laren Krotbaker, calling from Memphis, and a core committer and work for Adden Design Group.
Great. Thank you, everybody. Let's see. We have a couple of contrib updates. There are a couple of new projects. There's eSign field, which sounds cool, and draft workflow. And I think draft workflow is the module that Justin had created. Oh, it's different that he demoed during Backdrop Live. This is a different one.
That was Tim, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was forward revisions. Joseph demoed it, and I've been working with him on it. So it's a simple version of the content moderation module. And yeah, Jen, we talked about whether or not we should just get content moderation working. We got this working good enough. We decided to release it. We may still go back and look at content moderation, although, to be honest, this does most of what we need right now. So I'll see.
Okay, cool.
Sorry, for clarification, is this the same module or different than the forward revision module?
It's basically the same as forward revisions. That had never been released, and I didn't like the name. So
okay, but it's the same module, just it's had its name changed.
It's basically, we might have tweaked the features a tiny bit, but it's 95% what you would have seen in any demo.
Okay, but the forward revision module was never released.
It was never released. No.
Got it. Okay, excellent. That's great. Yeah, there's still some work to be done there around making it work with diff module. I think that diff module should stop hijacking the revisions page to let it be used by other modules, because right now it's only one can be installed at a time.
Sure.
And so yeah, the overloading of the revisions page by 3 different modules is probably something that needs to be chilled out a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, well, that's great. All right, so yeah, feature freeze is the big topic for today, and we've got a number of issues to cover. So first of all, we can celebrate that the emoji button in CK Editor 5, issue 6772, that feature was merged. Thanks, Laren, for getting to that final review and merging that in. I really appreciate that. and there is a follow-up issue to that. It doesn't need to be done for Backdrop 131, but it's issue 6891, and this is an issue to show some kind of warning if your database doesn't support the emoji character set UTF-8 MB4, and just make it so that either there's a warning saying, you know, that an issue is going to occur, prevent it from being enabled. Still, oh, I was going to say to be determined how that should work, but I see that IndigoZella 7 hours ago filed a pull request, so maybe not so necessary to
think
just
One
decide
other
how it will work.
possibility we had talked about was leaving the button there so they know it's there, but graying it out if it's not able to be used.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like this. It looks like this is just adding a warning, and it looks like it's just on the filter page, which is a good start and would probably be sufficient to just let people know. Yeah, because it's also entirely possible that you might end up in a situation where you have different environments and one of them supports emojis and the other one doesn't, like between your dev and your live environment for some reason. And so it's possible that when you first set it up, it was fine, but then when you deploy it, it's not because it's on a different database system. So something that is a warning rather than preventing you from turning it on, I think it might be better, because if you're prevented from turning it on, sometimes you're also prevented from like turning it off, and that can be confusing and frustrating. If you can't save a form without changing any of its values, then that is an unusual and frustrating experience.
To be clear, the grayed out option wouldn't prevent anyone from doing anything. You'd still be able to add it and so on. It just wouldn't let you click on it to insert an emoji.
Yeah. All right. Oh, and Tim says that regarding the feature freeze, he started a Google Doc. It looks like you need to grant public access to it, though, Tim.
Doing that right now. But it's really very out of date. So if to be useful, it will need to be updated. And I don't know at this stage if it's that useful, but I'll work on it anyways. There you go. You should be able to get to it now.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen and we'll just go through that. Stop capture.
Well, yeah.
All right, so first of all, the link is a URL shortcut, backdropcms.org/links/sprint1-31. So actually I want to talk about this issue because it's going to be the one that has the most conversation to be done. It's also quickly developing and changing approaches, and yeah, I'd like to discuss the new mechanism. So there's 2 pull requests. Oh, looks like you closed yours, Justin. Well,
No, it was still there. I don't think I did anything to it unless somebody else did.
I wonder if it just wasn't associated. Comment last week. Oh,
Herb closed it.
Okay. Yeah. See, I try to get prepared for these things and then this change is happening. I don't mind. Well, anyway, we can kind of just look at what this one did conceptually. Is that well, it's kind of hard to look at the code and figure out what it did. Well, what it did is what I had originally asked for, essentially in the summary here, where there's a filter that creates a data attribute that's like data image style.
Mhm.
Here we go. There we go. Thank you for this. Data image style large. But then the source points to the original image, and then a filter then changes the source to be the one that's referenced by the image style. That was the approach that we'd been using up until IndigoZilla created a new pull request. And the new pull request, I'm just going to pull up the sandbox here to demonstrate the way it works. Oh, I've already got it open. So when you select an image, the image style list here, if, let's say you want to use let's say a medium image, and then we hit insert, that's now a medium scaled image. And if we edit it, and then we change it to be grayscale square, it changes it to be the grayscale square, and that's great. The nice thing about this approach is that the previous pull request didn't handle things other than scaled images, and so this handles cropping and desaturation and all of the other possible effects that you could want. It also doesn't have any editor-specific integration, so this doesn't have a CKEditor plugin to do any kind of translation. But what it's doing is totally different. There's no additional data attribute, and there's no filter here. This is just in CKEditor, when you're selecting that the modal option to select the different image, it's just literally changing what is being pointed at. So it's just pointing at an image style as the source tag. It does still have the file ID in here, associating a file usage here, but it's just pointing directly at the final image.
Will
Uh,
that be enough to create one if one doesn't exist already?
It is, yeah.
Okay.
And I know that this, for people that are familiar with the Drupal way, there's always this iToke equals something, and
Mhm.
that doesn't exist inside of Backdrop. Backdrop's image generation isn't protected by tokens, but it's rate limited. So you're only allowed to create, I think it's like 6 images at a time, and that's configurable in settings.php as like one of those hidden settings. So it's rate limited and flood controlled. So if you load a page that has 100 images on it and none of the image styles are generated yet, what'll end up happening is they kind of come in a couple at a time because it throttles the creation. And some of those might actually time out if it takes too long. So they would return an error initially, and then they would later populate. So yeah, so there's nothing necessary in Backdrop to swap that out to something else. So I'm still thinking about about this approach. But yeah, I want to get Justin, you worked on the previous pull request and had the experience of trying to write the CKEditor plugin. And I'm curious to just hear your thoughts about how you feel about the previous approach versus this approach.
Well, this is definitely simpler and you get all of the possible image styles. I just didn't think that you could actually straight up replace it with the derivative image at the beginning. But apparently you can. Like I thought if you uploaded a new image, it wouldn't create that yet until after like the node was saved or something like that. But apparently it does.
Yeah, I'm
It creates
curious.
it when you request it.
Yeah, it creates it when you request it. Yeah, this is actually pretty neat. Like I can change out to a totally different image and it it maintains the image style, which is kind of, I imagine, what you want, right? Like
There has been a lot of discussion on like the original image, like select the original there.
mhm.
Like, I still want to be able to choose the size for the original. Because if if I have my image styles, it's possible that the image style is going to crop the image in a weird way that the content creator doesn't actually want it cropped that way. So they're gonna want to use the original image and they're gonna want to resize it just like they used to.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's also the contrib module, the image resize filter could potentially still be useful in this scenario where they use the original image and then they scale it,
Right.
and then that should be modified with the resize filter. Yeah, I also noticed this little hiccup here that if you I resized with the handles, and then if I edit and then I don't do anything, I just hit update here, it
goes
resets
back.
it back to the original size. And if the width and height fields were still there, then I think that it would persist because it would remember those values. But yeah, I'm not quite sure where they went. Like I looked at the pull request and there was height and width before, right? And now it's gone. Am I misremembering that?
No, I think it was there before.
It's definitely there before this change.
Oh, here it is. Access, use image style. So it totally hides it. Yeah, and maybe what this should be. Oh, I'm not quite
Oh,
sure how to think about that.
here's something possibly. All right, look at the markup again for the image. Oh, I guess it is there.
Yeah, well, it's there. Hang on, it's there because I dragged it. But let's do this. Oh, yeah, it's still there.
Is it there with the style?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, as I'd want it to be. It should be there whenever possible to help the browser with knowing what size this image is going to be. Well, anyway,
Now, it is, if you do edit the source, it's harder to change the image style this way. Before, you could just change the medium to large or whatnot,
yeah,
but
I'm,
not many
I mean,
people are going to do that.
yeah, I mean, you still can.
Yeah.
But now it's like funny because it's, yeah, the image dimensions are all messed up, and yeah, I don't think we need to worry too much about
No.
that use case. Yeah, there also is a question of like, should we disable the resize handles if you're using a style? And that would get tricky. You can disable the handles on the entire editor in Seek-Editor, but disabling the handles on one particular image would be a little trickier.
I
If,
had the resize disabled on the contrib module, but it was if you turned on the contrib module, then you didn't really need them. So
if instead of using access to hide it, if it was done with states and was shown if it was set to original and not shown if it was set to anything else, would that fix the height and width value issue?
It would create a new little issue in that if height and width are shown and you're changing this, the height and width won't change. They would need to be blanked out if you selected an image style, because the height and width would be populated as being 800 by 800 600, but then you select a new image style and it would still be 800 by 600 in the fields unless we blanked them out or did something. I guess what you're
Change
saying
them.
yeah, what you're doing, you're saying that we would hide it with states. But then
and then like manually change it wherever it's putting the height and width in now. Because it's putting it in the code somewhere. But
well, what we could do potentially is on the submit handler for this, when you click update, we could remove the height and the width if image style is set. So if image style is set, then remove the height and the width, maybe. Or we could even do better than that. We could, oh no, that may or may not work. So there's the function that says, hey, for an image style, what are the final dimensions of the image? And I can't remember what that's called, but we could actually pass back, like the fields would be hidden, but then when you hit save, it would calculate the new dimensions and then pass that to the editors, like these are the dimensions that should be set. Yeah, something like that. I feel like the dimension should still be shown if, like you're saying, with states, if you're using the original image. I think that that's an improvement that we can make here. Yeah, but I don't know. Like I kind of liked it. I liked the concept of the filter, like the cleanliness of it, but the simplicity and the functionality of this approach can't be denied. Like it works, and it
This
works better.
is
So, yeah.
this is always on though, right?
What do you mean it's always on?
With the filter, you could not use it. You could have it you could turn it off.
Yeah, well, but there's really nothing stopping any user from always using an image style path like this. Like
Correct.
anybody could anywhere always type in an image style path. And probably a lot of
But
sites already have.
I get
It
where
never
you're
occurred
going
to me
with.
that you could just do that. So,
But I think where you were going with that, Justin, is the filter has settings. You could choose which image styles were available,
right.
and so on. This one, does it have anything like that, or is it just any image style shows up?
If you have
Yeah.
like 50 image styles, they would all be in that dropdown.
No, it's still
Would they?
it's still configurable.
Oh, okay.
She put it in, but she put it into the editor configuration instead of the filter configuration, which
Okay.
Okay,
honestly is where people are gonna find it
that's cool.
anyway. So it's way more accessible than having to turn on a filter and then click configure and then select your list of
Right,
image
right, right.
styles. Now it's
I didn't look at
just,
this part of it.
No, note to
yeah,
self:
And you
never,
can
never
you can
doubt,
turn it off because you could unclick on use image styles and then it would just be like it always was.
yeah, yeah.
never doubt IndigoZilla.
I know
Okay.
it's a really simple approach. Yeah. Yeah, and yeah, me just saying it out loud that there's nothing stopping people from typing this markup already. I mean, we're making it a lot more accessible, but this is already an ability that people can do, and there's, we're already not really able to prevent it. And so it's already I'm going to put it in air quotes, a problem, right? That people are linking directly to the image style derivatives potentially, but we're just making it so that they can do it explicitly with an easier
Just,
UI.
just out of curiosity, if you go and delete an image style that you've used here, it has the file ID. Does it automatically pull up the original image then, or what would happen in that case?
It returns like a 404.
But like when you're editing the page, does the editor, is it smart enough to see there's a file ID here?
Oh, no, it's not.
Okay.
Let me see. What am I looking for? Image styles. So let's set this to be grayscale because that's one that somebody added. And then if I delete this, oh, I forgot that we had this ability.
Mm, I see.
I forgot that this ability existed. So what this
What,
does
yeah,
is
what does that do?
so yeah, so if you have any fields that are configured to use a particular, like on the display mode for a field, if you said that this should be grayscale square, you can replace it with large, and it goes through and it updates all of the text, all of the display formatters to use the other style. But it's not going to be able to do that for this. It'd be neat if it could, but interesting. This could be a follow-up. Because this gets crazy. We could also do something like we could maintain some kind of map that is like, you know, if this image was previously referenced. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and delete this. Okay, so grayscale is now gone. And I'm just gonna save this. What should I do to test this? What would you like to see?
Was it saved previously with that?
No,
No. So I'll
Just yet, no.
save. Okay, interesting. It's still there. But if I shift reload, now it's not because that was in my browser cache. And so if I look at it, it's a 404. But what I was suggesting we could do to make this to make this keep working, it's really difficult to go through and like update every piece of content that ever used this previous image. But if we wanted to keep a map, we could say, okay, well, if you previously had requested grayscale square and the replacement is large, we could do a 301 redirect, I think, and redirect them to large. And even though the path would be the same in the source code, we could send a redirect, and an image will follow a redirect. As far as I know, an image tag will follow a redirect to go to the new replacement.
Yeah, I think so. If you go back to that edit there, can you click on the 404 and then load up the image panel? Will that work?
Yeah. So here's the image, and then we click edit. And now it thinks none. And so if I click update, it's gonna go back to the original.
Yeah, well, so that's better than nothing. You can still at least
Yeah.
have it attached to the original that way.
It would also get confused if we had that map thing. You'd also need to do some work here to say, oh, this should be large, even though large wasn't actually what was in use. It was grayscale square. I don't know, that map thing seems like it could be a lot of work.
Yeah, I think the fact that the linkage is still there satisfies me to some degree.
Yeah, that is really neat, isn't it? That it's because of that file ID that really makes that possible. So it knows the file ID is 8. And so when you click edit, it still knows that this is the file that you're talking about. And you can click on this and it'll be the original image here. Yeah, I'm pretty satisfied with this just as it is. That yeah, you can still fix the problem. Well, very neat. Wow. So yeah, Indigozella to the rescue. I think that totally makes this a viable candidate that we could get wrapped up in the next couple of days. I think getting the height and width worked out for the original image, I think, is the big holdup here. But I mean, she filed this and I was like, oh, this is just proof of concept. But yeah, this is great. Oh, I guess it was actually Herb it said proof of concept. Yeah, works with TinyMCE. Yeah, no changes needed at all. It's great. Okay, great. Jen, you've been quiet. I'm curious if you have any thoughts.
I love it.
Okay, great. All right. Let's see. So yeah, taking a look at this document, I think that for the most part, this mirrors the 131 milestone. So we just talked about image styles. This one, layout on additional paths. I think this one's just been in a holding pattern. It hasn't had any. Oh, I'm wrong. It has had some updates. Okay, So it looks like he has some feedback from me here that I need to respond to. Okay, I'll look at that. This one, cache bin for book navigation data, it doesn't really have any end user facing abilities, but it just simply adds a cache bin. Thanks, Laren, for taking a look at it.
Yeah, I think the only thing it needs is that minor changing 130 to 131.
Okay, great. Yeah, that's straightforward. And I apologize. I think that a lot of these are hung up on core review, really. Like, you know, they've been ready for review, but they need the eyeballs of a core committer. And so a lot of this is you know, hung up on our core committer team. Let's see, emoji integration. Okay, we already talked about that one. And then, oh yeah, and then this one. I just marked this one RTBC. Really
quick note, Nate, it still has the PR needs testing tag. Is that accidental? Should we remove that?
I left it on there because I didn't actually do testing. So yeah, it could probably use a manual test, like go into views and add some periods and slashes and colons and @ symbols into your class names and just see that they actually get populated.
You might
So-
want to put a comment to clarify that, because if I look at this and it says RTBC, to me, that means it doesn't need testing.
Okay.
And so I'm confused by that. So, but if you put a comment, then that would explain.
Yep. So what this does is backdrop clean CSS identifier strips down a human readable string into something that is suitable for being used as a CSS identifier, or just gets out nasty characters that shouldn't be in a class name. But some CSS frameworks have started using questionable characters in their class names, including the @ symbol, colons, slashes, and periods, which I never would have thought that would happen, but Tailwind and UIKit use all of these characters. And so if it could be frustrating for users trying to intentionally use these characters in their class names and getting them stripped out. So this makes it
Does
so that
this
these
have an
become
issue
allowed.
with like if we're passing things into backed up CSS identifier that contain these symbols, assuming they're going to be stripped out, that are, like some CSS somewhere in core is going to be broken or contrib because they now contain these characters where they didn't before? Like this seems like it might need like a hidden setting or something.
Yeah, I think
Uh,
it's going to need a change record.
No, but I mean,
But
so it doesn't break existing sites.
so the only scenario I can see that this would occur, and maybe there's others that I haven't thought of, would be so it usually is the case, like places where we say like you know, something is going to be displayed as a class, there's usually a field for it, like on a block, like when you can specify a class, or in a view when you want to specify a class on a row. You can type in the additional CSS classes.
But those are only places where you're specifying them, and that's not usually where this is used. This is usually used where like a content type name becomes a class name, where there isn't a UI for that. We just automatically add it. And so there isn't necessarily a place for us to warn someone of what their classes might be. And I don't think that core is necessarily guilty of this, because we primarily use like underscores and we're not adding an underscore in here. That might be like converted to a hyphen or something.
Yeah.
But there could be some contrib module that is using like a common thing might be the strings from the config file that contain periods, assuming those are going to get converted to hyphens or removed in a class name. And that could be something where, you know, if we allow a period where we didn't before, all of the CSS classes that module has added are now going to be different, and none of the code that might have been targeting them. I don't think that, I don't know that this use case exists. It just is a like period is something that's very commonly used. I don't know about slash or comment or @, but it seems like it it has a potential for core change breaking existing sites. So I
Yeah,
don't know.
I think it does. But I think it's a pretty small chance. And so this is a scenario where, yeah, we make a change record and notify people that it can potentially break things, but I mean, as far as core is concerned, it won't break anything in core that we know of. And a contrib module could theoretically make an adjustment there to, string replace period with dash if it's taking a config file name, for example, as being passed in there. But yeah, it is possible. But
Would
for
it
where,
be possible to introduce a hidden setting so that new sites would automatically get this behavior and old sites would not be modified unless that value is changed, like a system core setting or something?
it could, but it's so obscure. Yeah, I'm not inclined to do that. Especially because I think existing sites having to find out how to turn it on, I feel like that could be even more frustrating. Like,
But why would an existing site want to turn it on? Right? They're already done. The only thing an existing site would want to do is turn it off because it
oh,
because
you're saying that it would be existing sites would get turned on by default, the
Yes.
additional
no.
replacements.
No, only new installs would get it turned on. Existing sites would remain unchanged from how they are today.
Right. Yeah. And that's what
Yeah.
I'm saying that would be difficult for people to understand how to turn on. How
But
do
they
I
wouldn't,
make
there's
it
no
so that
use
I can
case
add
for
a
like my live website all of a sudden needs to start using a different pattern. Like this is
Like
necessary for people to
a
like
new
build new
theme.
themes.
They're
Yeah.
retheming or something, and the new theme requires this, and then they've got to figure out how to turn it on. And
Yeah,
But
like
I
it
still think
doesn't.
that's like much less bad than like my live site is now broken because I did a core update.
Yeah, I see a lot of people trying to use Tailwind, for example, that they want to
But they're
start
not
using
usually
Tailwind.
really on a finished project. Like that just seems so
Yeah, because
unlikely. Like
you
you would
you
start over,
no,
right?
you
You would
get
have a new
you,
theme. You
you
wouldn't
get
be trying to
people
change a CSS file in one place and add one character.
no, you totally get people that are like, I want to add the ability to like add a margin to something without allowing arbitrary CSS. So you instead do Tailwind classes, which let you add margins to things.
Is there, is that like a module that we have that you see people turning on or like
No, you just throw on the Tailwind CSS build and
onto a live site?
and then you can just start throwing Tailwind classes all over the place. Not something I would do, but I see
Yeah.
people doing that with Tailwind pretty frequently.
I don't ever
Uh,
see a finished site where someone's like, I want to add a margin to one page and I'm going to add a whole library to do it. Like, I don't know. I feel like the kind of person who's going to add a whole front end library is not the kind of person who can't find a config setting in system core. It just seems like, yeah, I don't know. I don't know that my concern is a big one. I just wanted to make sure that we are aware that this can break live sites if someone is doing something with these characters, assuming they'll be stripped out and they are no longer. So concern voiced. Proceed
yeah.
as you like.
Can I ask, because change records, I so rarely use them. So this requires a change record. What is the trigger for an issue requiring a change record?
It is a change record because it can change the markup
Okay.
in some way. And so that means that if you wanted to keep the previous behavior, some code change may be necessary in order to make it work the same way that it did before. So
So this is a breaking change, but only if you're doing things in a way that we hadn't assumed you were doing them before.
Right.
So that's when change records are needed.
Yeah, change record.
Usually, yeah, usually they're for like API changes, which we don't introduced until like Backdrop 2. But because this is like a non-API change that could be breaking, it's helpful to have the change record so that if somebody's going, why is my site broken? What's changed recently? They can go and they can find the check record and they can discover it. So we're in this sort of gray area where like this isn't an API change. It doesn't strictly require it, but we do it anyway because we recognize that even though it's not technically an API change, it could be a breaking change for some people.
Got it. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, change
And then-
records are intended to be like something on my site didn't work and I want to see why. And I
Right.
might look at the change records to see the list of potentially breaking changes.
Okay.
Okay, let me see. Let's look at the agenda. Oh, let's see. We also have this one. Larry and I talked about it a little bit before the recording. I think this has test coverage, adding libraries, JS and CSS with hook theme. That there is already one scenario where it gets tested, but I do think that this would benefit from having explicit test coverage for this feature rather than a test just having a coincidental validation. And sorry, I'm trying to wrap up because we are almost out of time. And then there's this issue. There's a new version of CKEditor, of course, version 45. And so we already updated CKEditor already to support the emojis, for example, but a new version of CKEditor is available, version 45, but it changes the way links work in a kind of dramatic way. And so it broke our plugin and we're trying to figure out how to fix it. But then there's also this whole separate conversation about the entire way that we write all of our plugins is deprecated by CKEditor and will be discontinued in the next couple of months. So we have a bigger problem here too. But the state of this one is that I don't think we have the time to sort this particular issue out. And so we'll probably proceed with the version of CKEditor that we've already updated to, which I think is this 44.3. And then we'll save the 45 update and potentially the loading mechanism for 132, the next release. So this is interesting in that we have already updated CKEditor at least once, but we're not going to be on the absolute latest version when Backdrop 131 comes out, probably. And that's it. So yeah, we have got a fair amount of work to do. We've got a weekend to, I mean, we've got today, tomorrow, the weekend, and then all of Monday as well. So specifically said end of day Monday as being our feature freeze date. So definitely time to get the image styles in CKEditor sorted out. That'll be a really great front using phase feature if we can get that wrapped up. And yeah, I think all of these other ones are pretty viable. So yeah, that's it for today. Do we have any last comments or questions before we close? So I'm going to read this comment because I think it's funny. In the chat, Eli said, "Right to jail for those class names." Yeah, nothing like taking an unused bad idea character and then just like formalizing it in your framework is something everybody will need to use going forward.
Yeah, I'm now thinking about like which sites I'm gonna have to update. I can think of one already that used a / because they used directory paths and lived over them. Just like, oh no, what have I done? Like sloppy old developer behavior where you were like relying on core cleaning up your mess for you. Oh man. Yeah. I don't know. It's definitely making better developer habits. But...
Okay, well, let's call it for today. Oh, Jen?
You can stop the recording. I just have a general question for the group when we're done.
Okay. All right. Well, thanks everybody. We'll see you next week. Thank you for all the work and yeah, good luck. Good luck. All right.